Energy technologies. You're watching Platts Energy Week, connecting policy, markets, and trends. Hello, I'm Bill Loveless, and welcome to Platts Energy Week. A relatively small program at the U.S. Department of Energy is aiming for the sky when it comes to new technologies. The Advanced Research Projects Agency, or ARPA-E, has awarded some $900 million since its inception in 2009. That's barely a decimal point when it comes to Washington spending. But leaders of the program say it's an important start for a program that seeks high-potential, high-impact technologies, breakthroughs that would change the way we generate, store, and use energy. Cheryl Martin is the Acting Director of ARPA-E. She joins me today. Welcome to the program, Cheryl.
Thanks so much for having me, Bill.
Cheryl, you're just back from the ARPA-E Summit just down the river from Washington here. What was the big buzz at that event this year?
Well, the summit was in its 5th year. ARPA-E is a new agency, relatively speaking, and so in 5 years, I think the real buzz was the excitement of seeing projects we started 5 years ago actually starting to have real, tangible successes, things you can actually see and touch as you walked around the floor.
And what were some of those things that people were seeing and really wanting to touch?
Probably one of the most tangible things was we actually had Toyota as a partner with one of our projects from Arkansas, and they actually had a 2010 Toyota hybrid car with the charger for the hybrid system was replaced. So the charger that would normally be under the passenger seat, because the only place you could fit it, replaced by something a quarter the size, twice the power. And it would, basically charge that battery 10 times faster than it would have before. So it was very, very impressive to see a full-blown Toyota on the floor of the show this year.
And one thing I found interesting, I heard about this, was you're looking at a new tank, right, to make natural gas vehicles potentially a better option.
Yeah, absolutely. With the natural gas in the United States being the way it is, a few years ago, ARPA-E said, well, if we're going to have this natural gas, why couldn't we use it for passenger vehicles and still have a tank, a trunk in the back of your car, right? Ordinarily, you'd store that kind of gas in a big cylinder. So we said, well, what would it take for that to work? And we could use the infrastructure in everyone's homes to actually fill those cars. So you'd need new tanks, and you'd need new compressor systems.
And that's in the works as well?
Absolutely. We had a couple of teams that came up with conformable tank designs that literally, one of them looks like modeled on intestines to be fluid and flexible. And another modeled, as you think about seashells, that curved structure of seashells, and to be able to hold the pressure. But you could conform it just like we do today with gas. We don't think about where all the gas goes in our vehicle.
Right.
So why should we not be able to do that with net gas itself?
Well, the model for ARPA-E, of course, is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency at the Pentagon, and that agency gave birth to such things as the Internet and the GPS systems. Could the energy program have the same sort of impact anytime soon?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think we have to remember DARPA is over 50 years old, so our older sister, so to speak, has had quite a while to develop really amazing technologies that, you said, impact our everyday life. So I do think in where ARPA-E looks at transformational energy technologies, as we look 10, 20, 30 years out, will we have completely new ways to generate, transmit, and use our energy? Absolutely. I think both grid side and transportation.
Well, many people who in the energy business, whether they're executives, traders, tend to look more near-term, not so much long-term. I mean, how do you persuade them that there's something going on in your agency that should matter to them?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think the reality is, let's just take the grid, for example, right? I mean, there's a number of, integration of renewables, resiliency and robustness of the grid for, catastrophic weather events, in storms and things. So there's issues around the grid that have to be grappled with, the aging infrastructure of the grid. And so our ARPA-E is looking at that holistically and saying what has to happen. So we spoke a little bit about storage. Storage would be very beneficial to the grid if you're integrating renewables, if you want to provide backup power. But other things like the fact that the grid's very inefficient. So when we transform AC to DC or different power levels, we lose a lot of the electricity during those transformations. So if we start to think about a grid that's routable, where you can actually control either via physical devices or software where the electricity is going, or you can actually get it much more efficient, it will certainly, impact the day-to-day business models that are out there.
Do you worry about failure? I mean, it occurs, right, when you're working with challenging and unproven technologies in many instances. DOE has come under criticism in the past for failures in its loan guarantee program. Is that a big concern?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole idea in research and innovation that you have to try things that up front you don't know they'll work. If you knew they worked, it wouldn't be any sort of an experiment. So yes, we ask researchers to try to hit a certain performance and cost metric with us. We might take 12, projects in an area. Only a few of them might be able to really hit the metrics, but the others, maybe they hit a barrier of science and we stop them early. We've certainly had, projects that's happened, but others, they almost get there. And what we learn for the rest of the innovators is what almost worked. Maybe we pushed, a certain boundary a little further. So people build on each other's ideas. So the fact is, to me, it's only a failure if we don't act on what we know, right? It's just part of the process that you're picking things that sometimes won't work.
And it's a process, I might add, that has enjoyed bipartisan political support in Washington for several years, which is sort of rare these days in this town. Cheryl Martin is the acting director of the Advanced Research Projects Agency at the Energy Department.